Hello friends, happy Tuesday. It's time for another episode of Tuesday Live at 5. This is Lena Gersa. I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator from Cambridge, Ontario, Canada, and I'm so excited to be back today. I took last week off to deal with some family obligations and spend a little bit of time with my uncle from Austria who is visiting. And this week I am back. So I have some pretty projects for you today. I'm going to be featuring actually two products, a bundle and then sort of a hidden gem in the catalog. So I'm excited to share these projects with you. I hope you've missed me. I've only been gone for a week, but it's always good to come back. It always feels like it's longer when I come back after being away. I'm so in the routine of going live every Tuesday that when I don't, it's kind of discombobulating. But anyway, here I am, and I have exciting news. Look what I got today. One of my pre-order boxes arrived. There were supposed to be two, and it happened to be the one that had my packages of catalogs in it. So I am in the process, thanks to my son Max for helping me out, of prepping catalogs for mailing. So I actually just did a post just before I went live on this page that has a link to my catalog request form. So if you would like a complimentary copy of the mini catalog, and you live in Canada, I'm sorry I can't mail outside of Canada. I'm not allowed to. I can't sell to people outside of Canada. And besides, if you live elsewhere, you don't want to see our prices. Believe me. So I am excited to share those catalogs. So as I said, the first batch are going out thanks to my son Max tomorrow, and I'll be mailing out as requests come in. So these should get in your hands by launch day on September 6th. So if our postal system does what it's supposed to do, you should be getting them. Okay. But make sure you check out that post. It'll probably be just below this one here on this page, and you can request your catalog. Now this is even if you've requested or I've sent you a catalog before, I'm asking you to fill out a new request because I'm having some catalogs returned because of incorrect mailing addresses. So it just helps me if you give me your correct info each time, just so that I'm not wasting postage and catalogs on mailing to the wrong address and you're not frustrated because you haven't received it. All right, let's get to some stamping. So I'm going to set this beautiful catalog aside. I can't show you the inside yet, but trust me, you're going to love it. Let's flip my actually, no, let's first see. I haven't done this in a week and I'm already forgetting. Let's see if we can pull up my live here on my very old and decrepit iPad and see who's here. All right, Laura, Linda, Peggy, hello. Hi, Julie. How are all of you? All right. You have an issue getting yours. Well, Laura, mine was I haven't got my demonstrator copy yet. Mine was just from the packages of catalogs, the 8-packs that I ordered to send it to customers. So I haven't received my demonstrator copy yet. It'll get here when it gets here. I'm not too worried about it, but it is sure is nice to have a paper copy. That's for sure. All right, we are going to get some stamping. I'm going to flip my camera and I'm going to show you some product, and then we're going to do 3 pretty projects today. Okay, so here we go. Got to remember how to do this. There we go. 1. And we'll do the flipperoo here. Whoopsie. That didn't go all that smoothly. Look, 1 week off and I've already forgotten how to flip my camera smoothly. There we go. Oh, that's not quite tight enough. There we go. That looks good. Make sure that's in view. And we are good to go. Okay. Hi, Jean. It's good to be back this week. All right. So this week I am featuring 2 products. So first of all, I'm going to start with the bundle. This is the textured floral bundle. It's a beautiful stamp set with these sort of soft watercolor, almost impressionistic images. I am a big fan of the impressionist artists. So Debussy's a musician who is an impressionist composer. But Monet and Renoir and Degas, I love that style of artwork. So this stamp set really appeals to me. So we have beautiful images. We've got some sentiments with mixed fonts. And then, of course, our dies, open dies that cut out the stamped images, and then some additional greenery to fill out your floral bouquets. So this is the bundle we're going to be using today. And I've combined it, sorry, I'm a little croaky, with a hidden gem from the annual catalog called Delightful Doily. Now, this is a hybrid embossing folder. You will find it, let me just grab my annual catalog here. You will find it way at the back. way down here. So page 163, I'm not even sure you can see that. So it's down here. Doesn't look like much in the catalog, but oh my goodness, it is such a cool product. So you're going to see it in a bunch of ways today. So as I mentioned, hybrid embossing folder. So this is a 3D folder. So you use this with your 3D sandwich. So your platform and then your gray embossing plate, no other plates. Okay, so you put your platform embossing folder with cardstock and die, which I'll show you in a second, and then your gray plate on top. That's it. Okay, now how do hybrid embossing folders work? Well, essentially what we can do is both die cut and emboss all in one pass through the machine. So in the side of the embossing folder that has the Stampin' Up! Logo, you can nest this open die. And what this is going to do when you run it through with some cardstock is give you something that looks like this. So you end up with this beautiful, I'll hold that up a little bit so you can see, you end up with this beautiful doily shape, beautiful detailed embossing, absolutely stunning. Now, if you want to use it like that, you absolutely can. However, if you're going for more of a doily look, you can add the detail die. So we don't add this to the embossing folder, okay? This is a second step after you run your embossing folder and outline die through. Okay, so once you've got this piece, then you're going to take the detail die and you're going to line it up with the emboss pattern. It may take a second to figure out which way it goes. It does perfectly line up. So when you line it up, you're going to see the little dots, the embossed dots centered in the die. That's what I always look for. Then you're going to run this through with your regular die cutting sandwich. Okay, so your platform and your die cutting plate or your die cutting shim, and then your regular cutting plates. Okay, so this is a regular die cutting platform. When you do that, you end up with something that looks like this. So we've got beautiful embossing. It looks like a beautiful doily. And the cool thing is, I've just done this in white, but you can do these in any color you'd like to match your project. So I am loving this cool folder. And then in addition to your outline and your detail die, we also have some dies that will cut out the middle of your die cut. So if I take my die cut here and I use this die and cut out the center, I end up with this. So I have this pretty embossed shape here and what looks like a wreath. We're actually going to use this on one of our projects today. Okay, and then finally, if I take this and use my circle die, this is actually a 2-inch circle, I end up with two pieces that look like this. So we have similar, I'll show you the two side by side. Okay, so this one has a smooth outline with a dotted detail around the edge. This one has a rough outline. So this one looks kind of like a wreath. This one does too, just a little bit more refined. And again, we end up with this pretty circle, 2-inch circle with this lovely pattern. Okay, so many ways to use this fantastic hybrid embossing folder, and I am loving it. So I wanted to highlight that because it's easy to miss in the catalog because it's not part of a bundle. All right, so let's get to some stamping. And we are going to make this card. So this one is just a pretty birthday card, soft, really, really soft colors. So I'm starting with my soft seafoam cardstock. This is a 4 by 5 1/4 inch piece of cardstock that I've embossed using the Quatrefoil embossing folder. And that one works really, really well with the doily as well. You of course could, and you're going to see that on the next project, use the embossing folder just as an embossing folder and get that doily pattern as well. So there are many possibilities, but I wanted to show you how well this particular folder, which has been around for a little while, you may already have it in your stash, works with the delightful doily hybrid embossing folder. So we're going to do a little bit of ink blending just to highlight the embossed pattern. I'm not sure how well it'll show on the video, but you can see the difference. Here I've done my sponging on my background. This is the card plane or the cardstock plane. So we're going to add a little bit of color. So I'm just bringing in my blending brush, picking up a little bit of soft seafoam ink, and I'm going to do a bit of tone on tone here and just really highlight that embossed image. One of the things that I find sometimes when you're using a light colored cardstock is that it's sometimes easy to lose that embossed pattern. So by adding, can you see the difference where I blended and where I haven't? Can you see the difference? I'm not sure how well that'll show on the camera, but it really does bring out that raised pattern, and it works especially well if you go both clockwise and counterclockwise, so you're catching all sides of that raised embossed pattern. So I'm not going to worry too much about the middle of this piece because it's going to be covered with my little arrangement, but I am just going to finish up around the edges, and you can see now a little bit more over here that quatrefoil embossed pattern is a little bit more pronounced. Okay, all right. Hi, Susan from Pickering. Yes, I am back. I'm glad to be back. Hi, Sonia. Thanks for sharing. All right, so I'm going to take my background now, and I'm going to go ahead and adhere my doily. So it's going to get centered just on this piece, and I'm just going to adhere it with a little bit of seal. I'm not going to worry too much about it showing through because with everything we're going to put on top, we're not going to see it. Okay, so that's a quick and easy way to adhere that. All right, now let me talk for a minute about these gorgeous stamps. So I've already gone ahead and stamped and die cut all of these pieces, but I want to talk about some sort of troubleshooting and tips for stamping with these stamps. So I've got them all here, and I'm going to start with this large floral. So you need to be aware that when you are using these sort of textured watercolor effect stamps, that you need a very dry ink pad. Okay, if your ink pad is newer and juicier, you're gonna find that you're not gonna get as nice an image. Now there it is. I do have some paper here, and I'm gonna sort of demonstrate the difference. Okay, so I'm gonna start just straight up inking my flower and stamping it. Okay, doesn't look too bad. It's kind of blotchy, a little bit mottled. But if I bring in my dauber and I ink my stamp with my dauber, instead of taking it directly to the ink pad, I get a much softer look. Can you see the difference? It's a much, I prefer this look. Okay, now if you have a dry ink pad, you're going to see a little bit later, some of my ink pads that are drier, I can go directly to the pad to ink my stamps, but I was finding that with especially my bubble bath, which is a new pad, it's a new color, that I needed to use a dauber. Now you could also massage your pad a little bit to press some of the ink down into the pad. You can use the back of a plastic spoon or your bone folder. But I just like to use my daubers because I feel like I can get really nice even coverage. So to stamp this flower here that we're going to use on our card, I've applied my bubble bath to the top part of my flower. Then I'm going to come in with a dauber and add a little bit of berry burst along the bottom. And you're going to see when I stamp it, I'm going to get, oh, it didn't put quite enough berry burst there, but I'm going to get a much softer look. Okay, and look at that. There is a Stella here on my ink pad, because of course there is. She's always on my desk. All right, now, before I put this away, I'm going to also stamp my stamens on my, I actually got one that's die cut already. So I'm going to stamp my stamens. I'll show you once again. I'm going to stamp it full strength by inking it on the pad. And you see how dark that is? It's quite shocking against that. So again, I'm going to take my dauber and just apply a little bit of ink and stamp in the center, and it's a little bit softer. Okay, so that's just a little tip for the flower. Now, a couple of other things. When you are stamping, I'm going to show you how to do this blue flower. So let me just set this aside. It's got berry burst ink all over my fingers. Stay tuned for fingerprints on our projects, guaranteed to happen. All right, so here again, this is balmy blue. So I'm going to ink up my, this is this sort of tall, almost looks like, I don't know, gladiolas maybe. So I'm going to stamp once, full strength. Okay, that's quite mottled. I could use my dauber, but in fact, I think I will. Another way to do it, I'll just quick show you because I've stamped it. You could also do it stamped off, okay, for a much softer look. And then again, if we apply our ink with our dauber, we are going to get a different look again. of the three, I think this is the one that I prefer, but it depends on what your preference is and what look you're going for. Okay. All right. And then our stems, here we go. So the stems, I'm just stamping in soft seafoam, so I'm actually going to do full strength with these. Now this one can be a little bit tricky to line up. So when you're going to line these up, you want to look, I'm looking at, there's a little V here at the top. That is going to line up with these little flowers here. And the rest, if you kind of get that lined up and then you look at your bottom stem, it's going to kind of come down between these pieces here. And if you kind of focus on those, you're going to get a pretty well lined up image. Okay. So again, that's on the full strength one. If I do it on my daubered one, that's the look that I get. And I really like that look. Okay. So just some tips. I'm not going to take the time to do this with every single stamp, but I just wanted to show you a few tips for stamping with these very detailed watercolor images. It's got this fine sort of almost grid engraved on the stamp. And if you have too juicy a stamp, you end up, or too juicy an ink pad, you end up with images that are less than great. Okay. So let's put this one together. So I'm just going to start this, again, was stamped in soft seafoam, also ink applied using a dauber. So I'm going to just add a little bit of ink to the back of my flower here. And I'm just going to adhere these leaves to the back of the flower. Okay, that's going to sit right about there on our arrangement. Then I have some additional die cut. So we're going to start by sticking our blue flowers to the back of this one as well. It's going to kind of go like that. And then these guys are going to kind of come up in behind. So it's really just a matter of arranging your greenery in behind your flowers. So I like to start with whatever's on top, in this case my large pink flower, and then add my greenery in behind. And that one's going to need just a little bit more seal to stay stuck. There we go. Okay, and then that whole thing is going to get popped up on the front of my card. So let's do that. All right, a couple of dimensionals. And we need a mini on the top. There we go. So we'll get rid of our backings. And this is just going to go sort of to the left on our doily, just like that. Okay. Now my circle, this again is that same 2-inch circle I used from the die set to cut this circle out. So it's a 2-inch circle die, which is fantastic, being able to stamp a circle. Where did I put my gray ink? It's in one of these. I know it is because I pulled it out. There it is. It's underneath my flower. All right, so we're going to stamp Birthday Blooms for You in basic gray on our 2-inch circle here. So we'll just center it on there, just like that. And then, of course, this stamp set has a spatter stamp. So we're going to use our spatter and a little bit of soft seafoam. It's stamped off. So I'm going to ink my spatter. I'm going to stamp off, and then I'm just going to kind of come across the label at a bit of a diagonal and just add a little hint of texture behind my sentiment. And then we're going to layer that on a berry burst circle cut with the Stylish Shapes dies. So we're going to add a little bit of liquid glue there. Liquid glue is my preference whenever I am, especially trying to center circles, because sometimes you need to have that little bit of wiggle time to get them centered just right. There's nothing worse than a slightly off-center circle. It drives me crazy. So we're going to get rid of our backings here, and this is going to pop up. Now I'm going to kind of tuck this under the flower a little bit so it kind of nestles in there. So the flowers are kind of just touching my sentiment circle there. Okay, and then that is going to get glued to a soft seafoam card base. It's 4 1/4 by 11 inches, scored in the middle at 5 1/2. So we're going to go ahead and fold in half along our score line. And then, because this is an embossed piece, I'm going to apply my seal to my card base. Again, just so that I avoid the risk of tearing my embossed cardstock, because sometimes seal is so sticky, it can pull the layers of embossed cardstock apart. Look at, there's berry burst on my fingernail. We're going to be really careful not to have that end up where we don't want it. Now our last couple of touches, we're going to add a little bit of Wink of Stella to our flower. So just blending that a little bit, adding a little bit of soft shimmer there. And then we're going to tie a cute little bow. This is our sheer ribbon combo pack. This is in Bubble Bath, which is one of the colors I used on the flower. So this was just a little scrap of ribbon I had kicking around, and it's just enough to make a cute little bow here. So we'll pull that nice and tight and trim off our tails. And then that is going to go just at the base of the flower with a glue dot. Just like that. And then a couple of adhesive backed sequins. So we're just going to add a little smattering of these here and there, just to kind of pop up that pink, that beautiful pink shade. And there we go. There is our finished card. Now let me just show you on the inside. We have, I just added a basic white layer, did a little bit more stamping, same fashion that I did on the front, just to decorate the inside a little bit. And there we go. Really quick and easy. This stamp set is very forgiving, so there are lots of possibilities and you can really play around, but I really would encourage you to consider using daubers to ink your stamps if you have really juicy ink pads. Okay. All right. Let me just clean my mess here a little bit. I'm probably going to have to clean a couple stamps as well, but that's okay. All right. Here we go. We're moving on to Christmas. So we had a nice summary card. Now we're moving on to Christmas because I'm all about Christmas cards right now. I know it's August, but I am anxiously awaiting the rest of my pre-order to arrive. The box that arrived today had catalogs in it and not much else. So I'm waiting on box number 2, which has kind of gone AWOL. I have no delivery date, so I'm a little worried, but it will get here eventually. And so in the meantime, I am using what I have to make Christmas cards. So here is a Christmas card idea with this beautiful textured floral stamp set. So let me show you how to do this one. I'm going to bring in that die cut doily. So this is one of the ones I showed you earlier. So I've taken this doily and cut out the center. Okay. And we're going to add a little bit of color to this with some Lost Lagoon ink and a blending brush. So I'm going to pull in my blending brush here and my Lost Lagoon ink, and we're just going to start coming around. And I want the edges of my wreath to be a little bit darker. So I'm coming on from the edge each time, making sure that that edge is a bit darker, and that's going to make it really pop against the white background. So away we go. Hi, Jill. Welcome. Hope you are well. Thank you for sharing. I so appreciate it. And we'll just keep going. We're almost there. This is going to be a little bit darker than my sample. I'm being a little heavy-handed here because I'm watching comments and talking while doing this. Never a good combination. All right. Let's just finish that up a little bit there. We might hide that really dark spot there. Okay, there we go. There is our wreath. And now it's really just a matter of building the card. I've already done all of my stamping ahead of time, so this will come together really, really quickly. So to start, I have my background panel. So this is that hybrid doily embossing, delicate doily hybrid embossing folder. Too many words in that title. And I simply use the embossing folder as an embossing folder. Okay. Now I have purposely made sure that the full doily is centered and towards the top so that when I add my doily, I can just line those up and that beautiful embossed center will be centered. Okay, so that is going to go on. Now we're going to pop this up with some dimensionals. So where are they? They're buried. Here they are. We're going to add some dimensionals all the way around our wreath here. And then we're going to pop this onto the front of our card, or of our panel here. It's not a card yet. It will be soon. And I'm going to put that dark bit where I went a little overboard with my ink towards the bottom where my flowers are going to be. Okay, but isn't that a pretty wreath for a holiday card? I just think it's so elegant. All right, now we have an assortment of greenery and flowers. So again, let me just talk for 1 minute. This eucalyptus I have cut from Smoky Slate cardstock. My flower is stamped in Poppy Parade ink. My leaves are stamped in Lost Lagoon with a little bit of Pretty Peacock, a little bit of an ombre effect there. These smaller flowers are stamped in Smoky Slate. And then this greenery, this shimmery, pretty greenery, is Pretty Peacock, what's it called? Subtle Shimmer, I think the specialty paper is called. Okay, so we're going to form our arrangement just using these bits and pieces. So I'm going to start again by putting a little bit of seal on the back of my poppy. And I'm going to cover a little bit more of the leaves this time. I don't want as much showing as on my last card. Okay, and then we're going to add some eucalyptus. So this is going to kind of come around our wreath like this. So I find it easiest to kind of place it on the wreath and then add my adhesive and stick it down. So I'm just going to kind of leave these where they are. Then I'm going to go ahead and add some adhesive to the back of my flower. And I'm just going to lightly tack that on. Okay, and that way it's positioned exactly where I want it. Okay, now I'm going to take this pretty die cut, and as soon as oh, my husband took my scissors again. Lucky for him, it's not my good pair. This is my third string pair of scissors. I'm going to just trim this apart a little bit. So we're going to cut this off. We're going to cut this off. Okay, so I've got one piece here, and then we're going to use this piece up here. So this one is going to kind of peek out from behind our flower up top. So I'm going to add a little bit of seal and just pop that on up there. And then we're going to add our second one. It's going to come down here, right about there. Now we're going to add our other gray flowers in here in a second. Oh, he does like to live dangerously, Jill. Now, he didn't take my good ones. He knows now. He has been, you know, corrected enough times to know that he does not ever, on pain of death, touch my good scissors. But he did take them from he did take my second string scissors. So he's getting better. And then we're going to add one more flower up here, peeking out from behind our large flower. Actually, we'll tuck it in here like this. Just like that. Okay, so that is going to go on just like that. So I'm going to apply some seal kind of right on my wreath here to help this stick. And then we're going to kind of add additional adhesive as necessary. So that's going to go on just like that. Now these little eucalyptus leaves, I'm just going to take and add a couple little dabs of liquid glue to stick them down. Same thing up here. Couple little dabs. Come on, glue, work with me. There we go. Okay, and I might tuck one mini dimensional under that leaf. What I like to do is get the bulk of the image glued down and then add little bits of glue where necessary to make sure that everything stays put. That makes it much easier to get it all to lay flat. Okay, our next touch is our sentiment. So this is from the Brightest Glow stamp set. This is in the annual catalog. It was a carryover from last year's mini. I've stamped Season's Greetings and heat embossed in silver. So that is going to run across our wreath towards the top. So we're going to go ahead and add a little bit of seal on either end, and then I'm going to put a dimensional in the middle, where it's going to kind of run across the raised wreath there. So we're just going to tuck this in, centered right about like that. I think that's straight-ish. Okay, this hand could go up a little bit. There we go. Okay, and then we're going to add a little bitty bow, a similar spot to our last card. So this is from the, what's it called? white organdy ribbon, which used to be in the annual catalog, is not anymore, but is still available as an online exclusive, which I'm very glad of because this is one of my favorite ribbons because it goes with everything. It's white and sparkly, perfect for Christmas. Okay, now this is going to go onto a white card base. This is thick basic white, 4 1/4 by 11. This piece is actually a 1/4 sheet of cardstock, so it's going to completely cover our card front. There's not going to be any border or mat on this one. So I'm going to fold in half along my score line. And this time I'm actually going to use a little bit of liquid glue. Why? Because I want to make sure all of my edges line up perfectly. And again, having that extra wiggle time that liquid glue affords makes that a little bit easier. Now it's easiest to do this with the card open, so that you're only looking at one layer of cardstock to try to get this centered. And again, white on white is always a challenge, but that should do it. And there we go. Okay, and then our last touch is a little pop of silver bling with some festive pearls. So we'll just add a few little fellas here. One, I just realized I covered most of my pretty peacock blingy paper. I may have to adjust that later. We're not seeing that peacock sparkle. There we go. We'll do one more. One more. Where would we do it? Right here. There we go. Okay, now on the inside of this one, I did stamp another flower. Okay, now I did want to mention, if you can, I'm not sure how well it'll show on the camera. Let me just show you here. Can you see how this looks a little bit more orange than this? It's not because I did anything special to the ink. It's because I used a Wink of Stella to blend a little bit. Now let me grab my different wink. That's a little juicier. That one's a little dry. So I'm going to bring in my Wink of Stella, and I'm just going to, you're going to see as I go that the ink is going to magically almost change color. So when I am blending with the Wink of Stella, it's actually highlighting the yellow that is in the Poppy Parade ink. And it's almost changing the color of the ink, which is kind of cool. And at the same time, making it sparkly. So there we go. There is your Christmas card. Okay. Next up, where did I put my other samples? I can't see it right in front of me. Good gracious. Okay. Last one for today is a fall card because fall is coming. Whether we want to admit it or not. And I love fall. So I love fall. I don't love the end of my holidays, but I do love fall. So this particular card is a pretty little fall bouquet featuring lots of fall, rich, earthy colors. So I'm going to show you how to do this one. I'm going to show you how to do the little wrapper. Really, really easy. So to start, our background is a piece of pecan pie cardstock, 4 by 5 1/4 inches, and I've embossed it using the Timber embossing folder. Now you can decide with this folder whether you like emboss, meaning bumps up, or deboss, meaning bumps down. Doesn't really matter. For this particular look, I am going to use the emboss side because I want to, again, bring out some of that raised texture with a little bit of ink. So I'm going to use Early Espresso ink on my pecan pie cardstock. And I'm just going to hit the edges. And it's almost magical the way that that embossed image just appears. It's almost like, I don't know, magic ink or something. The pattern just magically pops as soon as you add that darker ink color. So I'm just going to come all the way around the edges. This is kind of similar to what I did on the first card, but the first card I actually came onto the cardstock a little bit more. This one I'm really just doing the edges. There we go. Okay, so just a little subtle hint kind of makes it a little bit more rustic, and to me a little bit more fall. I don't know. For me, fall is rustic. All right, so to make our little wrapper for our flowers, I have a 3 by 3 inch piece of Glorious Gingham cardstock. So this is a pecan pie pattern. And you can decide whether you like the small gingham or the large. But essentially, I've just cut a 3 by 3 square. So I'm going to bring the bottom edge up towards the middle. It doesn't have to be perfectly in the middle. I'm just kind of folding it in. I just want it to come to a point at the bottom. Okay, just like that. And then the other one's just going to kind of come across. That's really all there is to it. It's nothing fancy, nothing spectacular. It's just a really simple little almost kite shape. Okay, now we're not going to glue this flat quite yet. We are going to do some arranging first and then glue this down. So what I did with this one, let me just explain what colors I've stamped in. Oh, and I need to stamp the centers for my flowers. So these flowers are stamped in crushed curry ink. And my crushed curry pad happens to be fairly dry. So these ones I actually did straight up ink or stamp to ink pad and onto cardstock. So no daubering involved. Okay, so just straight up on a fairly dry ink pad. Then I'm going to stamp my centers in pecan pie. So this little stamp is also in the stamp set. And one more. There we go. And the other one that I used full strength is my Cajun Craze. So here I've got that same blue flower from our first card, but this time stamped in Cajun Craze and pecan pie for a fall look. So we are going to just simply arrange all of our bits and pieces inside our little cone here. Okay, so actually what I will do is stick this down. It's easier. Where's my seal? There it is. I'm going to add just a little bit of seal here to hold this down, but this is still going to be fairly loose so I can easily tuck things in behind. All right, so I'm going to start with some eucalyptus. I'm actually going to cut this into 3 pieces. And I'll just trim this off because we're not even going to see that bit of a mess there. So I just want some little individual eucalyptus bits. This one is way long, so we're going to cut it off. We don't need nearly that much length. And then this one. Okay, so this guy is cut from Mossy Meadow cardstock. It's going to get tucked in the back. So I'm going to put just a little bit of seal on my little bouquet wrapper here. And it's going to look really high, but don't worry. It's going to get filled out quite quickly. All right, then we're going to add our Cajun Craze. So again, a little bit of seal. And this guy's going to pop out here. And then let's throw a eucalyptus leaf up there as well. So this really, you guys, if you like to arrange flowers, this is all I'm doing. I'm just playing around with height and color and having some fun arranging flowers. Now, you know what? I'm going to wait. I was going to stick that down, but I won't because I need to add some ribbon. So here we go. Let's add our little smidge of glue there to make sure that lays flat. What else do we need? Let's do another one of these guys. Oh, don't stick to my paper. Don't do it. Don't do it. There we go. We're going to add a little bit of greenery in behind this guy. Now, it doesn't matter that this is not in our little bouquet wrapper. You won't be able to tell. This one is actually going to get stuck to the front. So we're going to add a little bit of glue here and stick that right across the front like that. And what else are we going to do? Let's add these guys. Put a little bit of glue in here and tuck that one in there. And now we'll start adding our larger flowers. This one's going to get popped. So we're going to add a dimensional on here. Put that guy in there. And then we're going to add some more greenery. So we'll tuck that one in here. And then we're going to add a smaller flower. And another little guy is going to slide in behind here. Right about there. Our large one is going to go right front and center. So we're going to add a dimensional right there. And pop that one on just like that. And then it's really just a matter of filling things out. So I'm going to actually trim this. Well, no, it's okay. We can keep that length. Just going to add a little bit more seal to the back and have this one kind of coming up. And then a couple of little eucalyptus sprigs in the back. I'm going to use glue dots for this actually. So we'll just grab a glue dot. I have that popping up there, and then one more in behind. And we're done. Right there. And there we go. There is our pretty fall bouquet. And now it's really just a matter of adhering it to the front of our card. So we're going to add a little bit of this beautiful, what's this called? Pecan pie bordered ribbon. This again is in the annual catalog. It's new this year. And we're going to start by adding a glue dot to one end of our ribbon here. And we're going to lay this across our card, I don't know, about an inch up from the bottom. And then trim that off the roll and add a little bit more. Just like that. Okay, and then this is going to go on. I'm going to add a little bit of, I'm going to add some dimensionals to the back to pop this up. So it's just really a matter of slapping these guys on the back and making sure you have enough to hold it. Put one more up here. And I think I'll put a mini up on this little guy because he's kind of sticking up in no man's land. All right. So we'll get rid of our backings and then pop this on at an angle. Just like that. Okay. We're going to add a little bow onto our floral wrapper here. I apologize if you hear doors slamming. My son is making dinner. So we decided in the summer, because he's home and he needs to learn how to cook, that every Tuesday, instead of being Takeout Tuesday in the summer, it's going to be Max Makes Dinner Tuesday. Doesn't have quite the same alliterative effect, but the kid is learning how to cook. So that's okay by me. So we're having barbecued burgers and air fried wedges for supper. Not the healthiest, but hey, I don't have to cook it, so it's all good. All right, let's go ahead and put this onto our card base. We have an early espresso card base, 4 1/4 by 11, scored in the middle at 5 1/2. All of our card bases are the same dimensions today. And we're going to add a little bit of seal again right to our card base so that we don't run the risk of tearing our embossed cardstock. So we'll pop this on. And I love the way the early espresso really brings out the inking that we did on the background. Just makes it, oh, so rich. All right, the last step is to add our sentiment. So I have this little bitty die cut label. This is cut using the sending dies. And I'm going to bring in my pecan pie ink and my With a Grateful Heart stamp. Oh, look at this cat hair everywhere. Honestly, these cats are driving me crazy. They won't leave me alone when I'm working down here, and they're still shedding like crazy. They don't ever stop. So, of course, they jump up when I have everything out and open, and I end up with a lovely little adventure in cat hair all over my desk. All right, let's add a little bit of glue and a mini dimensional to the other end. In fact, I may need to stack a couple of minis so that this lies flat. Because if you'll recall, we had popped up our flower as well. So let's just see how that looks. So we're going to lay that across our bouquet. Yes, double stacked mini dimensional is the way to go there to make sure that that lies flat. And then our last touch are some more adhesive back sequins. These are the basics, I think. They're metallic. This lovely copper color is perfect for fall. So we'll just add a couple of these guys and call it a day. There we go. On the inside of this one, we just did a little bit more stamping along the bottom. Again, same color palette as we had on the front. Okay, so there's one. So fall, Christmas, and spring or summer. So 3 seasons. And let me show you a couple more ideas with this. Oh, thank you, Jean. Thanks, Karen. Yeah, it sounds delicious to me because I'm not cooking it. All right. So I wanted to show how effective simple stamping can be with this stamp set. Because of the many different images and the layers that you can achieve, I think simple stamping is just gorgeous. So this is literally 2 layers of cardstock. I never make cards this simple. So I have my card base and then some white cardstock, and I've just done my stamping and a little bit of ink blending, added a couple of pearls for some bling. But I think that's just a lovely, really quick and easy sympathy card. Here's one using a similar color palette. Again, this is what was left from cutting my wreath. Remember this little piece here? So I used it behind my label just as a little bit of an accent point. And then this one's kind of over the top. I went a little crazy with this one. It's just an explosion of flowers. I absolutely love this card. It makes me happy. It makes me smile. I just really, really love the bright colors and all of the floral images. So there you go. Some ideas with the textured floral stamp set and dies bundle and the delightful Doily hybrid embossing folder. All right, everybody. Thanks for joining me today. Thanks for coming back after my week off. I will see you again next week for another episode of Tuesday Live at 5. Bye for now.